In Training to Be a King, written by Steve McGill, read by Astrid Clausel. A printed copy of this story may be found at returnamerica.com. Everyone, quickly, come close to me and listen well. I have news to tell from the greatest and most powerful king of all. He is the king of all the heavens. He is the king who has created you and me. What I have to tell you is true. This is not a story like Jack and the Beanstalk. What I have to say is for all of you, young and old, who are listening to me right now. I have been sent by the great king to tell you wonderful things. He wants you to know that he wants you to be a king in his kingdom. He wants you to rule with him forever and ever. The Great King. Maybe you don't know this king. I will tell you who he is. He is the God who created all things that we can see and everything that we cannot see. The Great King, our God, came to the earth, and his name on earth was Jesus. Jesus told us about a wonderful plan that God wants you to be a part of. He told us that his world is going to end very soon, and God's kingdom is going to take its place. He told us that we can enter this kingdom by changing the way we live and living according to his instructions. God wants you to be a king in his kingdom, to rule over everything with him, and he wants you to start training to be a king in heaven right now. Would you like to be a king and to rule with the greatest king there is? You can be a king. I know this sounds incredible, but it's true. God wants you, yes, you, to be a king. You can be a real king. Would you like to know how? Let me tell you what the great king tells us in his book called the Bible. Come near to my voice and listen closely as I tell you things that will help you to become a king. Are you ready? Listen to what I have to tell you now. Child of the king. The great king wants you to be his children. When you're his children, he will teach you and show you everything you need to know to be a king in his kingdom. This is a great privilege that God will give you if you want to be trained by him. Do you want to be trained by the great king to be a king? Then listen closely to what I have to say to you next. Obeying the great king. To be trained by the great king, you need to first become his child. To be his child, you need to stop doing those things that a king's child should not do. Here are some of the important things he wants you to do. 1. Only be trained by the great king and no one else. 2. Don't let anything get in the way of being trained by the great king, even if it seems good and beneficial. 3. Don't talk bad about the great king. Always talk with respect and honor about him. 4. Set aside 1 day a week so you can learn about the great king and talk with him. 5. Never talk bad about or do anything that is not right to those who are your parents or who have taken care of you. Always talk and act with respect and honor toward them. 6. Learn to be patient, gentle, and kind when bad things happen. Don't be angry or hateful or hurt other people. 7. Kings in training have only one wife and do not have many girl or boyfriends. Treat your wife as if she's married to a king, because she is. 8. Never take anything that does not belong to you. Never encroach upon others or their property. 9. Always be a man or woman of your word. Don't say something you don't mean or something that is not true. 10. The great king wants you to be great givers to other people, not takers from others. Just because you want it or can get it doesn't mean you should have it. When you obey the great king in these instructions, you will now be ready to learn greater things about the great king and his kingdom. Friendship with the king. There are 2 ways you can get to know the great king better. You can read the book that he has written for you, then obey what you read. This book is called the Bible. The second way you can get to know God more is by talking with him. This is called prayer. When you get to know the great king, he becomes the most wonderful friend and father that anyone could have, and will not let anything happen to you that is not the best for you. Everything good and everything bad is always for your benefit when you are in training to be a king. God wants you to be a great king. Hang out with kings in training. While you're in training to be a king, it is also important to hang out with other people who are also training to be kings. Here's a question for you to answer. What will happen if you go swimming in a mud puddle? That's right, you'll get muddy, real muddy, head to foot covered muddy. Here's a second question for you. What will happen if you go swimming in red paint? You're correct again. You will have red paint all over you. When you hang out with other people who are trying to be kings, you will become like they are, kings in training, learning to act like the great king. But if you hang out with people who are not doing what the great king teaches, then you will become like them. Do you understand why it's important to hang out with people who are also training to be a king in God's kingdom? The king's spirit. It's also important to receive the spirit of the great king in you. Here are a few questions for you to answer. Can a dog stop acting like a dog? Can a bird behave like a horse? Have you ever seen a deer acting like a monkey, swinging from tree to tree? You are 100% correct when you answer no to each of these questions. A dog behaves like a dog, a bird behaves like a bird, and a deer behaves like a deer. Now, I have a really tough question for you to answer. Do you have your brain cells charged and your imagination sharpened? Good. Here's the question. Can a person quit acting like a person? I told you this would be tough. Set aside this paper for a moment and think about your question. Can a person quit acting like a person? Can a person quit acting like a person? Can a person quit acting like a person? Okay, you're back. What's your answer? Did you say no? If you did, you're not correct. The right answer is yes, a person can quit behaving like a person. I know, you're thinking that I fell off the roof, hit my head, cracked it open, and let a few brain cells leak out. But I am serious. As a child of the great king, learning to be a king, we're able to quit acting like people and act like the great king who is not a person, but is God. We are able to behave like God instead of a person. If you want to know how people behave, read the following verses in the great king's book, Romans 1:21-32 and Galatians 5:19-21. When we become God's children, He gives us a new spirit to live inside our bodies. A dog acts like a dog because of the spirit that is in it. A person acts like a person because of the spirit that is inside him or her. If you were able to put the spirit of a dog inside your own body, then you would act like a dog and not be a person. When God puts His spirit inside of people, they are then able to act like God. God's spirit is different from a person's spirit. God's spirit allows you to behave with love, joy, peace, patience, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, and self-control. The great king teaches us to behave like Him. Behaving like a king. The great king teaches us to behave like a king. He does this by allowing situations, circumstances, people, thoughts to come to us that make us want to not behave like God, but like a person. This is called temptation. When we don't become angry, impatient, or irritated, especially when we want to, we are becoming more and more like the great king, and are learning to be a king in His kingdom. It is important to understand that the great king is not just training you to change the behavior that everybody can see, but also your thoughts, attitudes, and motivations are being trained. You may think what I'm going to say is incredible, but you never do or say anything unless you first had a thought or feeling about it. Who you are on the inside can be known by who you are on the outside. When your thoughts, attitudes, and emotions are behaving like a great king, then your words and actions will behave like the great king. Our eternal inheritance. Once we go through our training here on earth, the great king will then bring us into his kingdom. When we are there, he will give to us a crown, a mansion, cities to rule over, and many more wonderful things that a king will need in order to rule with God forever and ever in heaven. Imagine how long that will be. 1,000,000 years from now, you will still be alive and ruling as a king in heaven. Incredible! That's all I have to say about how to be a king in the great king's kingdom. There's much more to be said, but I would like for you to find out about those things for yourself. You can do this by reading the great king's book, talking to him, and maybe even writing about what you've learned, like I have done here. Wow! Imagine! I'm in training to be a king in the kingdom of the greatest king ever. Incredible, but absolutely true, 100% guaranteed. Wow! How about you? Have you started your training to be a king in God's kingdom? Why don't you start today?